State your name, please.
My name is Suzie Hoyman.
And Susie, you know that we're about to make a video
Yes.
and that there's no financial gain for you or me in this
Yes.
video. It's for educational purposes only, and it will be used in my thesis.
Excellent.
Okay. And put on YouTube, which you're welcome to distribute at your will.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you give me permission to film you?
I do.
Okay. So, Susie, tell me about whatever you'd like to talk
I'd like
about.
to talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah. I let's see. I had friends that started this community. They were close friends, and close with my family. And I never, there had never come an opportunity for any one of the owners to look for a buyer for their portion. We're divided into four quarters here, though we have 9 households with so 5 rentals and 4 owners in their own homes. But an opportunity came up in 2004, and I jumped on it. And I was actually the top person on the list that they were hoping could potentially afford it. At that point, the original owners started about 30 years ago. They had already almost completely paid off the mortgage. The mortgage was a lot smaller than, of course, mine was when I came in and bought at the fair market value at that time. So that was an interesting dynamic. I had another house I could sell, so I had a lot of cash, so that helped because it would have been difficult. I think the owners might have had to carry the place themselves had it not been me or somebody with a bit of cash to come in. Um, and I was interested in being here, one, because I loved the land. I loved the community. I have very close friends here. I liked the vision, and everything was going pretty smoothly. And I also felt like I needed an action in the world that really put my money where my mouth was. It's only about the 1940s or so that people actually, non homeowners, actually began to speculate on homes, buying them up and then putting them in the rental market. And that took a lot of inventory out of the market for actual homeowners. It's gotten difficult to own homes. And I just thought throwing my money in where it was a little more confined and tied up was actually putting some of my own beliefs and morals in the right place, in the right direction. And I wanted to live in intentional community. It's been a fabulous experience. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have its ups and downs, but in general, it's an amazing way to live. The In our structure, we have partners that own, like I say, in quarters. I'm one of those partners, and then we have 5 rentals. We're on about 15 acres. We have big gardens and ceremonial grounds and some privacy around our own homes. Some houses have more privacy than others, but the houses are tending to be clustered, and our gardens are all in one place. And we have smaller first zone gardens in our some of our own closer front yards and backyards. So it's quite a nice structure, and there's a lot of breathing and elbow room, and yet we see each other quite a bit too and work together in the gardens and on work days and things like that. We have community meals together Monday through Thursday nights. Someone cooks me an organic dinner, and I only have to cook once a month in that Monday through Thursday slot. So it's quite great on the work nights, the quote unquote normal work nights, to have somebody provide you with a community dinner. And it's a great way to live. There were a couple other questions I can't remember that really, oh God, what were they? Were later, and they were a
Yeah.
little
Oh, the
more
ones about the
esoteric.
future. Yeah. Your
Um,
spiritual
no,
foundation.
not that. No, no. It's interesting to think about the future of not only small communities, um, the United States, of course. I live in Northern California, which is great and quite liberal, which is wonderful, but actually the future of the world, and the fact that, at least in the United States, and I do believe in Europe, some of these statistics hold true also, that people are very stressed. The amount of
Mm.
depression, stress is rising rapidly in most Western nations and probably in all nations in the world. And the mitigators to that kind of thing is more trust, more, which produces oxytocin in us, which is basically our connective love bonding chemicals that juice us up for life and get us out of depression and get us action oriented and get us focused on leading a good life and living a good life. So as that decreases in society, we feel abandoned, we feel lonely, we feel more depression, there's more suicide. No one is connected, and or very, we have less and less connection. And it was only really been a couple of generations ago, and otherwise back into infinity in our past as human beings, that we actually lived in villages and we lived in small communities. Maybe a family had 3 or 4 generations on a farm, and we don't live that way any longer. And our connective tissue that holds us together, that binds us, binds our hearts and our minds with like minded people, family, and community, is missing today. And so many people talk about wanting to recreate that for themselves, wanting to find it, and they don't know how to find it, and they don't know how to begin to put it together. So it's a really big deal, not only with people more my age, but millennials are extremely interested, and
Mm-hmm.
especially since they're priced out of the home market in a lot of ways. So there's getting to be more and more innovative ways for people to find ways to live together, support each other, work together. Maybe they go out to their work day, that's fine, or they work at home as a writer or a developer or something, but that they're working to support each other in life's processes and maybe help babysit your kids because I've got a kids, or and the cooking together, which saves so much time and money. We throw away such less food. I personally throw away less food that might be going bad in my fridge because I don't have to buy the food during the weekdays because somebody's cooking me dinner. It saves time, it saves money, it saves the environment, and it saves our goodwill towards each other when we sit down and break bread together.
That was so excellent. I'm going to ask you, just do a little break right here and ask you if I can do more than 2 minutes of you on my phone. Okay. Okay. So go ahead with your next thought. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Um, the things that bind us together here are the ceremonies that we have throughout the year, and gardening together, and our meal times. And our community meetings. We have community meetings once a month, and then the partners, the ownership, has meetings together maybe every 6 to 7 weeks. Um, we are sort of ceremonialists. That's one of the things that holds us together. And the people that have come into the community that didn't start the community, renters and people that have been here long term. A lot of our renters, we have a renter that's been here 9 years, so people tend to come and they
Mm-hmm.
tend to stay. And part of what holds us together is we have a big solstice ceremony around just before Christmas, and we have a huge May Day festival on the first Sunday of every May. And it is phenomenal. We maybe have 400 people come for a huge maypole live band. People come and picnic all over the land. Children are running around. It's just beautiful and fantastic. So it's a place where we invite the greater community, our friends and families, to come and be with us in celebration. And then we have smaller ones throughout the year. We've had a few weddings here recently. We have a big enough old tennis court that we can dress it up and get about 300 people on it. So as the children that have been raised here grow up and get married, this is a place where they want to come back to their old homes and get married. So we have some of that going on. So the ceremony, the ritual that we do, there's other things that we do, but those are our big ones that are very they're heart centered for us here, but they're also, we invite our closest core to come in too. hold us together. Gardening, our meal times together, they all create an atmosphere of trust and love and camaraderie. And we get to discuss our garden day that's maybe coming up in a week, or the big May Day festival at dinner. And we also get to find out what's going on in other people's lives. And I tell you, man, I don't know. We wonder how we ever lived without it. We just don't know, because it's fantastic.
Anything else?
Seems like there was one. Um, I want to speak a little bit to the money situation.
Mm-hmm.
That, there are people sometimes that wonder how the money thing goes here. And we're not a commune; we're an intentional community. There are four. The property is divided into four quarters and four owners, and then we have five rentals. So the rental, and we keep our rentals, the cost of them pretty low, because there's exchange for some work hours every month, not many, and just being, we want to do that. We feel like this crazy atmosphere of expensive living is pretty crazy. So we keep our rentals low. But the rental money, interestingly enough, tends to get shuttled right back into the land, and for the renter's benefit, certainly for the partners and owners' benefit, some. But that is the place in the arena where things really begin to level out, and we honor the requests, sometimes big requests, from the people who are part of the community that are in that rental or renters category. They're part of the community, but they get to make proposals and they get to make requests. And we're a community of, the owners in particular are a big yes usually. So unless it's a crazy idea and with a, thousands and thousands of dollars, we tend to say yes and maybe modify a project or change it a little bit, but we put money back into the betterment of the community for the whole. And that feels really good and really healthy.
Anything else?
I want to say something about on a worrisome side for me.
Okay.
So as I live here and age, there is a little bit of a worrisome side for me. I'm one of the main gardeners, and I generally have a lot of strength and energy. But as I age, I'm noticing I can do just a little less strength stuff. I can do just a little less with my time. I have to move a little slower. And so I'm curious about what happens when I actually am elderly, and how we're going to manage. We have about 15 acres. Half of it is in forest and wetlands, which, yay, thank you. But the other half is in gardens and places that we keep up, ceremonial areas. They take a lot of maintenance. And as the owners are aging, we're noticing that we have to put more money into hiring wonderful helpers, and not just, because the whole community just can't handle it, and we're slowing down. So that's something that's very curious to me. Am I going to want to shuttle more and more of our rental money and personal money to needing helpers, that stuff that I used to be able to do and can't do any longer? And what might we have to let go of? And is that going to be okay with my other partners? And just working out those dynamics and differences as we age and age in place. Will we age in place? I had always had a fantasy that maybe if the owners had had enough money here, that we have town is about 2 miles away, that we actually try to buy a small lot and build ourselves maybe 4 or 5 two-bedroom condo units with some raised beds and some gardens where we could do a little bit of smaller gardening, but we could attrition to there, and some of our children could buy in here, some of our, or we could, sell portions off, but we could keep associated with the two properties. And of course, that hasn't happened, and it may not happen, but those kinds of ideas are what sometimes drive me to think about even a larger community base being set up. So
Hmm.
I think about the future and aging.
Let me ask you a question. You know about the Sustainable Development Goals for that the UN has just set up in 2015. They came in about the same time as the Paris Agreement. They work in concert um, to set goals for social development and environment by 2030 because that's a huge marker for us with the climate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You have grandchildren and your daughter and yourself. 2030 is not that far away. Um, how does your vision of this type, or does this type of lifestyle and trying to live in harmony with planetary processes, um, is there any correlation between those two things for you?
I'm under no illusion about sustainability. I am very worried about the future of the planet. And though this makes me feel good to live here and grow a lot of my own food in the summers, I am under no illusion of sustainability. I'm too old for that. If my some of my children who were in their 30s lived here and were had a place to live here and we could figure that out, economically and also with building codes and things like that, which is impossible. Um, Possibly, but they've all got careers they're excited about. They're very busy. They have little gardens where they live, but I don't fancy I will ever be sustainable by any close margin
Okay.
of the world. I'm not about to. In my younger days, I had a cow I milked, and I raised sheep, and that provided meat, and that wasn't even sustainable. So that's not happening. I can only feel good about the sort of stupid little things we do. We're sticklers about recycling. All of our food waste goes to the chickens. We buy organic food. We do raise a lot of our food. We have chickens here for eggs, but it is by no means sustainable, and we know that. And so I worry very much about the future. I worry for my grandchildren. I don't know how to help make big change. I'm working on a book with a loose title called Creating Community on Your Own Block, where you can take some of the things in the model that we have here without being in the ownership model, and maybe organize 4 or 5 households on your block to cook for each other, take down fences, garden together, create gardens, support each other in looking after children, or maybe there's an elder within those 4 or 5 homes that needs a little help. Any possibility to feel closer and to rely on each other, to share tools. Everybody doesn't need a riding mower, so you buy one and you have a little contract where you take care of it and you take care of it together. And ways in which our carbon footprint gets smaller, we can live closer to the land and closer to nature, we can support our closest people, because in the case of emergency, in the case of the way it looks like the globe is going, and you know we are all going to be bumping into some troubled times in the future. Living in Northern California, having just come out of 4 years of drought, we've had a pretty generous year. I am hoping that our governor does not call a stop to the efforts to control water consumption that were put into place last year. There is no reason to not have people be much more aware of their water usage and not free it up again, because we are going to be dry again. We are going to hit that. Climate change is bringing us oscillating changes in our weather patterns, and that is the new normal, and even that will change, and it could get worse. There is so much going on that we have to stay more nimble. We have to stay more connected. We need to be able to make change and not feel depressed about it and say, I've got this idea, let's go in this direction and let's do this, to help buoy people's spirits and to help keep in pace with the changes that are coming and hopefully live effective, effectual lives in this changing atmosphere.
Beautiful. Do you want to stop there? It's 20 minutes.
I don't, whatever.